Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Hope you're doing well. It's Friday today, so hopefully you guys are happy, looking forward to the weekend. I certainly am. And before I start this video, I would like to just announce that I'm considering a change in name for the channel. I know that like a lot of people know the channel as Word of Philosophy and refer to it as Word of Philosophy, which is great, but I'm just thinking like, sure, there is philosophy in the channel. It's not necessarily what I do the most. I don't even think it's necessarily what like people want the most. I mean, I think it's good to do like philosophy videos here and there. I'm not sure if the DNA of the channel is distilled by the current title. So I was thinking of like changing the name of it to something like Ren's Corner or Ren something like with my name, because a lot of you guys address me by my name and we can just talk on a human to human basis. So just to let you know, well, you can give me your opinion also, like if you think that this would be a good move to make the name, the sound of it a bit more personal, a bit more intimate, and a bit less generic perhaps. But sure, let me know what you think. This is just to warn you that if there's a change, you'll still see the blue-haired schoolgirl Rei Ayanami from Evangelion displayed as the image, so that will be a way to still recognize my channel, but it's probably going to change names soon, and it will be Ren's something, maybe Ren's Corner or Ren's something. I mean, something that sounds good with Ren, basically. So this is just to let you know, but you can let me know what you think also in the comments. If you have ideas, don't hesitate to share. So this particular video, is going to be dedicated to, I guess, 5 things that INFJs have and can bring to the table, not only in their own lives as traits that they should try to cultivate as much as possible. And this ties in with my recent video on tips for being happy as an INFJ, but also traits that actually are not only potentially sought after by other people who are not INFJs, but traits that are actually treasured and sought after by other people without us necessarily realizing it, because it's not necessarily our default mode to think about, to focus on these things. We often have so much distance on things that we end up having trouble quite knowing what is of value or seen as being of value by others. And so I'll name the 5 things that I want to talk about. So intensity, creativity, passion, influence, and responsibility. Okay? And I'm just going to unpack now what I think and why I think that these 5 traits are treasured by people and why INFJs have them. So the first one in my little list there, intensity. Well, because I think that INFJs in general are quite intense people. Like when they're interested in something, they are very interested in that thing. The way they look, their expressions, they look intently at people. Like often they have this stare that is well known about them. They're able to concentrate a lot of attention on conversations, topics. They take an interest in the depth of the other people, the depth of things. So this is something that we do well, and this is something that not everybody has, as you've noticed. A lot of people in real life do lack intensity. Actually, I would say that the vast majority of people are not intense. It probably would be a bad thing if everybody was intense. Like, it's good for some people to be more chilled, that there is a balance. But the people who are not particularly intense, like if you're not intense in an aggravating way, like in an invasive way, people are going to appreciate an intensity of interest in the personality, just to have in their presence, because they will find it inspiring. Okay, and this ties in with passion. Maybe I'll tackle passion second. The fact that INFJs and this probably is tied to the NF side of things. Passion, idealism, intensity, these themes are connected. We tend to be passionate about what we perceive. So we have an ideal, and maybe we could add a sixth thing there. I think idealism maybe could be added. So let's say that we have 6 things in the end. So because we have this long-term vision via NI, we're able to fixate on an ideal. It can be an ideal about human rights, or it can be an ideal about literature, or about particular state of affairs, about friendship. It's like an ideal that's a bit abstract, but we can feel very intense towards and very passionate towards. And again, a lot of people lack that. They don't necessarily have as much of a long-term vision and as much idealism. It's not because they don't have it, or society tends to lack it, that society doesn't like it. Often people who are passionate and who are idealistic and who have intensity about these particular fields that they like are going to be sought after, and their presence cherished by people who maybe don't necessarily lack it, but don't have it in as great a measure. And these people will bring other things to the table. You know, they will bring things that the INFJ perhaps doesn't have as much. But the INFJ can definitely bring intensity of interest, idealism of vision, and passion of activity, and passion of being in a way. Now, when I talk about influence and responsibility, these two themes are or these two names and themes, they're connected. They're connected because what I mean by influence is that, and I've talked about this before, I really think that INFJs can have a very great deal of influence. But in turn, this influence, if it is exerted, requires a moral, stalwart, consistent kind of responsibility to govern it, to steer it, so that it does not, it's not having like an impact that's a negative impact. So let's just try to enter into a more concrete domain here. What do I mean by influence? Well, suppose that you are intense, you're passionate, and that you're idealistic. Well, this is going to be something that people like. It's going to be something that you yourself like because you'll be living in accordance with your nature. People will be attracted to it, at least some people, and these are the people that are worth spending time with. But there are also people who will be maybe a bit younger or a bit idealistic themselves, and they will find it inspiring in some way. Like there's always going to be, if you're an INFJ and you're a healthy INFJ and you're proud to wear your INFJ-ness on your sleeves, doesn't mean that you have to tell people I am INFJ. You know, but if you're a person who has that kind of cast of mind, cast of personality, you're going to have a certain aura. You know, might be a strange aura for some people, might be an impenetrable aura for others, but it will be also an inspiring aura for yet other people. People who might be impressed with you or who might admire you a little bit. And that's, again, if you wear it proudly on your sleeves, who you are, that's going to happen. And so you're going to be, in a way, whether you like it or not, you're going to be influencing these people. Partly this will be as a result of your intensity, of your passion, and of your idealism. Also of your creativity. I mentioned creativity earlier. I want to insist on this. I said in a previous, very recent video that I think it's important for the NI vision to be something that's intimate in some respects, but also something that's shared with others. Thing is, if you share your NI vision with others, this requires creating a picture of your NI vision to share with others, because you're not going to be able to just translate, like you're not going to be able to speak your NI vision directly to other people so that they understand it, because often you don't really completely make sense of it yourself until you put it in words. From the moment that you've put it in words, you have created something. You've used a creative medium. It can just be language, it can be writing, which is language, it could be painting, you know, it could be many things. Like there are lots of great, there's a lot of great directors, movie directors that express their NI vision in film. Mentioned Tarkovsky before, mentioned Malik before, I know that there are some debates about whether he might be an FI dominant, but let's assume here that he's an NI dominant. So you can express it through an artistic medium that is not in writing, but it's representational to some extent. You represent something for people to embrace, people to see. So your aura, which is already like, you already have a kind of aura of mystery coming from your intensity, your passion, your idealism. Not only that, but then if you create a representation of that vision about which you feel passionate, intense, etc., if you create a representational picture of it in whatever artistic or linguistic medium for others to appreciate, to share with others, you're going to not only feel good in yourself, and I'll make a video on this at a later point, the idea of leaving a trace, I think, because we are people who feel detached from reality a little bit, having a sense that like we have existence detached from ourselves as part of reality is existentially reassuring to us. And I'll make a video on this idea of leaving a trace. It's also a concept in my philosophy. But in any case, you leave a trace, a creative trace, you can share with others, they can see it. That's obviously going to not only make you feel good, because again, you'll be engaging in activities in accordance with your innermost, or as Heidegger would say, ownmost nature, but you also would give others the opportunity to share even more intimately with your vision, with your intensity, and all these traits, and that will extend the likelihood and the impact of your potential influence with those that find you to be an inspiring figure. Keep this in mind. And this is not an arrogant thing, this is something I've observed. More than a lot of types, INFJs have the ability to exert influence on other people, whether they like it or not. And that's not the case of most types as much as the INFJ type, okay? But this requires accepting oneself, loving one's strangeness, and loving the traits that I listed: intensity, creativity, idealism, passion, leading to influence. Imagine that now you influence other people. You know what? I think that influence is actually something that makes the INFJ feel good. I think that despite this cliche about INFJs wanting to be left to themselves, INFJs wanting to not have too much to do with other people, cliches I know. Of course you need alone time, but remember the INFJ is also associated with some archetypes such as the seer, the prophet, the psychic, these things. Imagine the prophet. It's true that I think a lot of prophet types are INFJ because you have a vision and you have an intensity and you inspire people. Now, a prophet can still go back to his cave and spend some time just by himself, and you sort of could apply that to reality with the life of a modern day INFJ like yourself and myself, for those who are INFJ. So you're going to influence people. You are an FE auxiliary user. FE is a function that, so for us, it's very important to utilize it. It's very happy. FE makes one very happy when it promotes harmony, but also when it promotes a certain form of influence. Never more than with an ENFJ. Influencers par excellence, because they're dominant FE. But also for INFJs. So I think INFJs are not necessarily people that like to influence very, very, very large crowds of people, but they like it when they have influence over a select group of people that take a genuine interest in what they do, and never are they more happy, never are they happier when they exert that kind of influence than when it is a mutually sort of assisting kind of influence. They can derive for their own NI vision and the enrichment of it insight from those that consider themselves to be influenced by them, sometimes really openly so. But also when that sense of having some kind of influence instills a sense of responsibility in them. And that's the last trait that I want to conclude with, which is that I really get the sense that when an INFJ feels that he or she, or they have influence over other people, when what they think, how they are, their vision matters to other people to an extent that might be inspiring to these other people. The INFJ feels glad because that kind of spreads their vision, and via FE that makes them happy. It gives the vision a chance to be not only universal in the abstract theoretical realm of their own mind, but also in actual reality. It gives them the potential to reach into that universal sort of sphere. But, and this is yet again part of FE, part of what makes FE happy, is this sense of responsibility, this sense of, if you feel like there are some maybe younger people or you know, slightly less experienced people who are learning, or people who are maybe not less experienced but who are just interested and inspired by what you do, to really sense that in a way, like, you have a duty to just make sure that you do not disappoint them, that you do not mislead them, that you try to give them the keys to be creatively independent on their own, whilst being very nice and being very having a lot of integrity about what you do, but always keeping the sense, if you have an influence over other people, nurture that influence. Do not allow it to become abusive. Do not allow it to turn into power. Keep this influence as being one of mutual assistance and inspiration. Mutual inspiration, the INFJ will probably be giving the pulse of that relationship, but still mutual, intimate, okay, and never verging into the domain of power. And I think this is another part of FE. FE is satisfied when it has some influence, but always governed by a sense of responsibility. And to quote the man who is now appearing in all my videos, which is becoming a little bit concerning, Jordan Peterson, who is an INFJ in my opinion, an FE user, he's always talking about this sense of responsibility, and I think that there's a connection with FE. Not to say that like only FE users are responsible, but that FE treasures it to an extent. Having to sort of take care and nurture something, sometimes it can be, for some FE users, it can be actually like nurturing baby animals, and I know someone whom I cherish very much who would agree with this. But it can also be about nurturing relationships, not only friendships, but also more intellectual relationships of mutual assistance, influence, and inspiration. Okay, so I'll just give the list of the 6 traits, not 5, but 6 traits that I wanted to emphasize in this video, that INFJs ought to cultivate for themselves, but also traits that they can bring to the table in relationships with others, that others are going to treasure, whether they say it openly or not. Intensity, creativity, passion, idealism, influence, and responsibility. All right, let me know in the comments what you think, and have a lovely Friday. Enjoy the start of your weekend, and I will be talking to you very soon. See you guys.